is Worldview. My name is Xavier Robert, and on our top stories today, Charles III crowned monarch of United Kingdom and 14 Commonwealth realms at Britain's first coronation for 70 years. Russia's Wagner Group boss reportedly says Moscow has agreed to his demands for more ammunition days after he threatened to withdraw his men from Bakhmut. Taiwan expecting fast-tracked $500 million weapons package from Washington this year to make up for delays in arms procurements. Details of these stories and more in a moment. First, on Worldview today, Charles III was crowned monarch of the United Kingdom and 14 Commonwealth realms on Saturday at Britain's first coronation for 70 years during a ceremony steeped in a millennium of ritual and spectacle. After a lifetime as heir to his late mother, Queen Elizabeth II, Charles, aged 74, became the oldest sovereign yet to be crowned at London's Westminster Abbey at about 1202, and ancient symbol of the monarch's authority. Welby also crowned Charles's wife, Queen Camilla, aged 75. Cries of "God save the King" rang out from the 2,300-member congregation, which included foreign royalty and political leaders. Meanwhile, leaders in the United States and Europe sent congratulations to Britain's King Charles III and Queen Camilla on their coronation on Saturday, while China called for cooperation and peace. U.S. President Joe Biden, whose country was represented at the lavish ceremony in London, the country's relationship was a source of strength for both its peoples, and that he was proud his wife could be there for the historic occasion. Now, in an interview at Friday, he said he would meet Charles in July to talk in particular about environmental issues. Now, Chinese President Xi Jinping urged the UK to work for a stable and mutually beneficial relationship with his country after recent strains in their relations. The head of the European Union's executive European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen called the coronation a testament to the enduring strength of the British monarchy, amongst other congratulatory notes that came in. Away from that, Russia's Wagner Group boss says Moscow has agreed to his demands for more ammunition days after he threatened to withdraw his men from Bakhmut. On Thursday, Yevgeny Prigozhin attacked his Russian partners in a gruesome expletive-filled rant filmed among dozens of Wagner troops' corpses. The next day, he said Wagner fighters would leave Bakhmut by 10th May. But Prigozhin later on said Moscow had agreed to provide this a publicity seeker who has not followed through on previous threats. Russian troops and fighters from Wagner, a private military company, have been trying to capture Bakhmut for months, despite its questionable strategic value. Western officials believe thousands of Russian and Wagner troops have been killed in the fighting, and the eastern Ukrainian city has become a symbolic prize. Meanwhile, President Volodymyr Zelensky has vowed that Russian forces would be defeated in Ukraine like Nazi Germany was beaten in World War II, commemorating Victory in Europe Day. Zelensky said in a video statement standing in front of a war memorial that all the old ways that modern Russia is bringing back on May 8, 1945, and one day ahead of Victory Day in Moscow, celebrating the Soviet Union's victory in World War II. According to Zelensky, he had submitted a bill to Parliament to formally commemorate World War II in Ukraine today and celebrate Europe Day on May 9, distancing itself further from Moscow. Air raid sirens have sounded across Ukraine after Russia launched a fresh wave of missile and drone strikes on cities around the country. Explosions were heard in Ukraine's capital, Kiev, in 8 days on Kiev, and comes just 24 hours before Russia celebrates Victory Day. The annual holiday commemorates the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany during World War II, a conflict the Kremlin has baselessly tried to draw parallels to since launching its invasion of Ukraine last year. The Ukrainian military said today raids, which lasted more than 4 hours and were launched shortly after midnight, saw 16 missiles fired at targets across the country. Away from that, Taiwan is expecting a fast-tracked $500 million weapons package from Washington this year to make up for delays in arms procurements, according to reports. The self-ruled democratic island lives under constant threat of an invasion by China, which claimed rattling towards the island. Taiwan's key ally, the United States, in September approved the Taiwan Policy Act, which would see new legislation provide billions in military aid to Taipei. But there have been reported delays in delivering weapons, and Taiwan's Defense Minister Chu Kuo-cheng today confirmed that Washington has been discussing a separate and fast-tracked weapons package with Taipei. President Xi Jinping will host a two-day summit with the leaders of 5 Central Asian nations next week as China moves to increase its influence in the region. China's foreign ministry said that leaders of Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan are expected on the ancient Silk Road is the first of its kind since the establishment of formal relations 31 years ago, according to the ministry, and will focus on strengthening economic and diplomatic ties with Beijing. Away from that, Norway's 86-year-old king, Haakon nation for 32 years, has suffered a number of health problems in recent years and now uses crutches to move around. According to the palace in a statement, he has in December and also for COVID and respiratory problems. The king underwent surgery in 2003 for bladder cancer and had an operation in 2005 for heart valve problems. The separate development authorities of Canada have said that wildfires in the province of Alberta continue to spread despite rain and falling temperatures. Reports say that more than 375,000 hectares of land in Alberta have been burned, and more than 29,000 people have had to leave their homes. I'll recall that some 31 of the 108 active forest fires were out of control, forcing Alberta to declare a state of emergency late on Saturday. The declaration allows federal funds to be released to fight the flames. Head of the Alberta Wildfire Protection Authority, Christy Turker, said that recent rain had helped. Away from that, now Sudanese military fighter jets continuing with airstrikes in the capital Khartoum and the adjacent cities of Bari and Omdurman, despite ceasefire talks taking place in Saudi Arabia. Report says ground battles are also taking place between the army in Shambat is near a huge base of the army, while the battle in Halfia appears to be for control of a key bridge, which is currently in the hands of the RSF. The fighting has left people terrified, forcing them to hide in their homes. But many people are still hopeful that the talks in Saudi Arabia, the first between the warring sides, would lead to a ceasefire, even though an unnamed Saudi diplomat has told newsmen that no major progress has been made so far. Meanwhile, the army has detained 2 pro-democracy activists in Bari, accusing them of supporting the RSF. After the break, a day of national mourning is being held in Democratic Republic of Congo, where more than 400 bodies have been recovered following floods and landslides in the east of the country. So stay with us for details on this and more right after the break. And thanks for staying tuned. Now, a day of national mourning is being held in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where more than 400 bodies have been recovered following floods and landslides in the east of the country. Reports say that many people are still missing and are feared to be under mud that covered two villages in Kalehe district. Some bodies were found in nearby Lake Kivu. Police doctor and Nobel Peace Prize winner Denis Mukwege has criticized the fact that the victims were buried in mass graves. He has called for more dignified burials. Away from that, Uganda's security forces say they have discovered explosives intended for use during planned anti-government protests in the capital, Kampala. An activist group, Uganda Freedom Activists, has called for nationwide protests today. The explosives were found in Nabweru on the road to Kazo in central Wakiso district. He said it was to be used today in the city by those planning to paint it red. Reports say that 4 people were arrested for alleged possession of improvised explosive devices, and police warned the activists against organizing the protests, terming them unlawful. Well, at least 22 people have died after a parked tourist boat capsized in India's southern Kerala state. The death toll could rise as rescue efforts are underway, and the vessel police of Malappuram district had said. The boat was reportedly carrying about 50 people, or double its capacity, when it overturned on Sunday night. The police today registered a case of culpable homicide against the owner of the boat, who is reportedly absconding. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, on his part, expressed condolences on Twitter, saying he was pained by the loss of lives. Meanwhile, 8 people have been killed in the U.S. state of Texas after a car struck a group about 8:30 local time. At least 5 other people have been injured, some of them critically. The driver has been arrested and charged, as Brownsville police say it is not clear whether the incident was intentional. In the meantime, federal authorities are investigating whether the gunman who killed 8 people, including children, at a Dallas shopping mall had far-right links. The attacker, who was shot dead at the scene by a police officer, has been mocked. He wore a clothing patch with the letters RWDS, which stands for Right-Wing Death Squad. This is a phrase popular among right-wing extremists and white supremacy groups. A law enforcement source told media that one line of inquiry is whether he was motivated by these ideals and whether he had links to like-minded people. Away from that, Iran has executed 2 men who were convicted of burning the Quran and insulting the Prophet of Islam, according to the country's judiciary. Dozens of social media accounts dedicated to atheism and desecration of the sanctities. Mehdard's lawyer had insisted that he was innocent and his sentence unjust, while a rights group called their executions a cruel act by a medieval regime. There has been a surge in executions in the Islamic Republic amid continuing anti-government unrest, but those for blasphemy convictions are rare. Away from that, a far-right Republican Party has finished first in an election to choose the members of the body tasked with drawing up Chile's new constitution, with a new constitution to replace the one brought in during the military rule of General Augusto Pinochet. A draft by a previous assembly was rejected in a referendum last year. The first assembly had been dominated by progressive members, and many Chileans found their proposals too radical. The constitution they had proposed would have declared Chile a plurinational state, recognizing the rights of Chile's indigenous groups, which make up about 13% of the population, to their lands and resources. In a separate development now, a 48-year-old woman survived 5 days stranded in the bush in Australia by eating sweets and drinking a single bottle of wine. Lillian Ip set off on what was meant to be a short trip on Sunday, traveling through dense bush in Victoria State. But she hit a dead end after taking a wrong turn, and her vehicle became stuck in the mud. Miss Ip, who does not drink, only had a bottle of wine in the car, as she was planning to give it as a present. After 5 nights stranded, she was discovered by emergency services on Friday as they flew overhead as part of a search, as she lost hope of being found alive. She wrote a letter to her family saying she loved them. Victoria Police said Miss Ebb was found around 60 kilometers away from the nearest town, and due to health issues, she was unable to walk far, so stayed with her car. She reportedly only had a few snacks and sweets to eat and no water. Miss Ebb was taken to hospital to be treated for dehydration, but has since returned home to Melbourne. And with that, we wrap up our package for you on Worldview today. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. I am Xavier Robert, reaching you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom, and you have been watching Worldview on Spectrum TV. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.